The dim glow of malfunctioning lights flickered overhead as Elias Raines made his way through the lower maintenance corridors of Nexus Prime, the sprawling human outpost orbiting the gas giant Zyros. Unlike the bustling central decks filled with diplomats and traders from across the galaxy, these tunnels were quiet, too quiet. Most of the human workers avoided this section, citing the eerie presence of alien machinery installed by the Varkari, the enigmatic insectoid species that had once claimed the station before Earth's arrival. Now, Nexus Prime stood as a symbol of uneasy cooperation, a hub where humans and various alien factions coexisted, though tension simmered beneath the surface. Elias wasn't just any maintenance officer. At 32, he was one of the youngest engineers to be stationed aboard Nexus Prime, and his insatiable curiosity often landed him in trouble. While others followed protocols and stayed within designated zones, Elias wandered where few dared, always eager to understand the alien systems that still baffled human engineers. It was his job to monitor the power relays, but he found himself drawn to the deeper tunnels, places where no one else went, where the station's history whispered through rusted conduits and forgotten circuits. The latest malfunction had been flagged in an isolated sector, far from the usual maintenance routes. Most of his colleagues would have ignored it, dismissing it as a minor fault in the outdated alien infrastructure. But Elias had seen enough strange anomalies to know that something was off. As he tightened his grip on his diagnostic toolkit, he reached the corridor where the red dot on his tablet blinked insistently. The air was stale, thick with the scent of old ozone and something else, something metallic. He had barely taken another step when a deep, resonant sound echoed through the tunnel. It wasn't the hum of machinery or the groan of shifting metal. It was a voice, low and guttural, followed by the unmistakable thud of something heavy hitting the floor. Elias froze. The maintenance log showed this section as empty, but clearly someone, or something, was here. His instincts told him to retreat, to call for backup, but another part of him, the part that had led him to this station in the first place, urged him forward. He adjusted his stance, heart pounding, and took a cautious step toward the source of the noise. If something was wrong, he had to fix it. And if he was about to come face to face with one of the station's more intimidating inhabitants, well, that wasn't going to stop him either. Elias edged forward, his boots barely making a sound against the metallic floor. The corridor curved sharply to the left, and beyond it, something groaned, deep, pained, and unmistakably not human. He tightened his grip on his toolkit and took a slow breath. Most people would have called security or turned back, but Elias had always been different. He wasn't afraid of the unknown. He was drawn to it. He rounded the corner and froze. Slumped against the wall was a massive alien, unlike any he had seen before. Its form was humanoid, but its exoskeleton shimmered with a dull iridescence, reflecting the flickering lights in strange, shifting hues. It was easily twice his height, its limbs thick with muscle, each joint reinforced with what looked like natural armor plating. A jagged wound ran across its side, glowing faintly with an internal light. Something unnatural, something wrong. It wasn't alone. Scattered around it were the remains of a shattered drone, its metallic frame crushed as if by a single blow. The alien turned its head, revealing a face that was both terrifying and oddly noble. Its eyes blinked slowly, their color shifting between hues of violet and deep crimson. When it spoke, its voice was a slow, deliberate rumble, each word carrying weight. "You should not be here, small one." Elias swallowed hard but didn't move back. He had seen enough injuries to recognize the severity of this one. The alien's wound pulsed faintly, and its posture was rigid with pain. If it had fought something and lost, it was still trying to mask its vulnerability. "I could say the same for you," Elias replied, forcing his voice to remain steady. "This section's off limits." The alien's upper limbs twitched slightly, its exoskeletal plates shifting as if adjusting to its injury. "This place was once ours. I came to ensure the Varkari's legacy remains intact." Elias frowned. The Varkari abandoned this station years ago. What are you doing here? The alien let out a low, resonant hum, almost like a sigh. I was caught in a malfunction. My systems are damaged. Elias stepped closer, studying the wound. It wasn't just physical. It looked like a power conduit had ruptured inside the alien's body, causing internal damage. He glanced at his toolkit, recalling the modifications he had made to his equipment. He had always been fascinated with alien tech, and over the years, he had assembled a set of tools designed for emergency repairs on non-human systems. You need help, Elias said, and I've got the means to give it. The alien's 6 eyes narrowed. You are not one of the warriors. You are not one of the strong. Elias shrugged. I'm an engineer. My job is to fix things, not fight them. For a moment, the alien was silent. Then, it let out a low, rumbling noise that Elias could only interpret as amusement. You are either very brave or very foolish, small one. Elias knelt beside it, carefully inspecting the injury. He could see the exposed circuitry beneath the torn exoskeleton, pulsing erratically. He reached for a small, cylindrical device from his toolkit, a prototype he had built himself, designed to stabilize alien energy flows. He had tested it on malfunctioning Varkari drones before, but never on a living being. I don't know your name, Elias said as he activated the device, letting a soft blue glow illuminate the tunnel. The alien hesitated, then replied, I am called Virex. Elias nodded. All right, Virex. Let's get you fixed up. He worked quickly, his hands moving with practiced precision. He adjusted the device's frequency, matching it to the alien's energy output. As the stabilizer hummed to life, Virex let out a deep, resonant sound, something between a growl and a sigh. You do not fear me, Virex observed. Elias glanced up. Should I? Virex's 6 eyes studied him for a long moment. Most humans would. Elias shrugged again. Not most humans. As he finished securing the stabilizer, Virex slowly pushed himself upright, testing his limbs. The pulsing in his wound had lessened, and his posture was no longer as rigid with pain. He turned his gaze back to Elias, the shifting violet and crimson of his eyes now more stable, more focused. You have done something unexpected, Virex rumbled. You have helped without hesitation. Elias packed up his tools, offering a small smile. I told you, I'm here to fix things. If you're broken, I'll do what I can. Virex tilted his head, considering. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, he extended one of his massive arms. You are not like the others, he said. Perhaps you are not as weak as you seem. Elias hesitated only a moment before reaching out, placing his hand against Virex's exoskeleton. It was warm, pulsing faintly with energy. And maybe you're not as scary as you look. Virex rumbled again, a sound that Elias could only interpret as approval. You have earned something rare, small one. My respect. Elias grinned. That's a first. As they stood in the dimly lit corridor, the uneasy balance of Nexus Prime seemed to shift ever so slightly. What had begun as a simple maintenance job was turning into something far more complicated and far more important. The days that followed Elias's encounter with Virex were unlike any he had experienced aboard Nexus Prime. What began as a simple act of repair blossomed into an unusual but compelling partnership. Virex, once a symbol of the station's alien legacy, now lingered in the lower tunnels, his presence a quiet but undeniable challenge to the unspoken rules of separation. Elias, for his part, found himself drawn to the alien's enigmatic nature, a puzzle he couldn't resist solving. Their meetings became routine. Each day, Elias would bring his toolkit to the maintenance corridor where they first met, and Virex would be there, waiting. At first, their interactions were limited to repairing the alien's stabilizer and discussing the mechanics of his exoskeleton. But as Elias delved deeper into the intricacies of Varkari technology, he began to see the patterns that governed the alien's physiology. how the energy conduits in his body mirrored the power grids of the station, how his exoskeleton's plating responded to stress and strain, much like the station's reinforced hull. These were systems, not so different from the ones Elias had grown up fixing on Earth. Virex, too, began to change. Though he remained reserved, his 6 eyes betrayed a growing curiosity about Elias and the humans in general. One evening, as Elias adjusted the stabilizer settings to better match Virex's energy output, the alien asked, "Why do you help me? You are not bound by duty." Elias paused, considering his answer. "I guess. I just want to understand. You're not just a problem to fix, you're a mystery to solve. And besides, if I can learn something from you, maybe I can make this station better for everyone." Virex tilted his head, his shifting eye colors reflecting intrigue. "You see me as a problem to solve?" Elias chuckled. "Not in a bad way. Just, you're built differently. I've never seen anything like you. You're a machine and a living being all at once. It's fascinating." Over time, their conversations expanded beyond repairs. Elias shared stories of Earth's history, how humans had survived wars, natural disasters, and technological revolutions through ingenuity and cooperation. Virex, in turn, spoke of the Varkari's ancient traditions, their reverence for precision, and their belief that strength was defined by one's ability to endure hardship without faltering. Though their perspectives were vastly different, they found common ground in their mutual respect for resilience and adaptability. One evening, as they worked on fine-tuning the stabilizer, Virex surprised Elias with an unexpected question. "What is your greatest strength as an engineer?" Elias hesitated, then grinned. "Probably my ability to improvise. I don't always have the right tools, but I make do with what's around. Sometimes, it's the simplest solutions that work the best." Virex's eyes shifted to a deep, contemplative crimson. "You rely on adaptability." "Yeah," Elias replied. "It's how we survive." The alien was silent for a moment before extending one of his massive arms. "Then show me." Elias blinked. "Show you what?" "How you adapt." And so, their collaboration deepened. Elias demonstrated repair techniques he had developed over the years, how to bypass damaged circuits with makeshift conductors, how to stabilize failing systems with minimal energy output, how to use precision rather than brute force. Virex watched intently, his movements slow and deliberate as he mimicked Elias's techniques, testing them on damaged Varkari machinery scattered throughout the tunnels. But it wasn't just repairs that Elias introduced to Virex. He brought tools, small, human-sized devices that seemed insignificant in comparison to the alien's massive limbs. He taught Virex how to handle a wrench, how to calibrate a sensor, how to use a soldering iron with the same precision he used in combat. At first, Virex struggled with the delicate nature of these tasks, his massive fingers fumbling with the tiny mechanisms. But as days passed, he grew more adept, his movements becoming surprisingly fluid despite his size. "You move with purpose," Elias observed one day as Virex carefully adjusted a circuit board. "Even when you're not fighting." Virex's eyes flickered with violet. "This is another form of combat." Elias nodded. "Exactly. Sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought with weapons. Sometimes it's about figuring out how things work and making them better." Their bond began to shift the dynamic of the station. Word of Elias's work with Virex spread quietly among the engineers, some intrigued, others wary. The alien presence on Nexus Prime had always been a point of tension, and Elias's willingness to engage with Virex, rather than avoid him, was seen as either foolish or inspiring. But the most surprising change came from Virex himself. One morning, Elias arrived at their usual meeting place to find Virex waiting with something unexpected. In his massive hands he held a small, intricate device, something that looked like a hybrid between human and Varkari technology. "I built this," Virex said simply. Elias took it, inspecting the delicate circuitry. This is incredible. You reverse-engineered human tools? Virex nodded. You taught me to see differently. This is my way of showing you that I have learned. Elias looked up, his heart pounding. You're not just fixing things anymore. You're creating them. Virex's 6 eyes met his. And you are not just an engineer. You are a teacher. It was a moment of mutual recognition, a quiet but profound shift in their relationship. Elias had entered the lower tunnels to fix a malfunctioning power relay, but what he had found instead was an opportunity to bridge a divide. And as he and Virex continued their work together, the walls between species, once so rigid, began to crack ever so slightly. The first sign of trouble came as a low, resonant hum reverberating through the lower corridors. Elias had been working with Virex, adjusting the stabilizer that now functioned as a makeshift medical aid, when the sound reached them. It was different from the usual mechanical groans of the station. This was something deeper, more urgent. A malfunction, perhaps, or something worse. Virex's eyes darkened to a deep crimson. Something is wrong. Elias nodded, already reaching for his tablet. The diagnostics had flagged an anomaly in the power grid, something massive draining energy from the lower sectors. He tapped into the station's internal sensors, scanning for the source. The readings were erratic, flickering between normal and critically unstable. Before he could react, a sudden tremor shook the corridor, sending dust and debris cascading from the ceiling. The lights flickered violently, then died, plunging the tunnel into near darkness. Elias tightened his grip on his toolkit, his breath coming faster. He had seen system failures before, but this felt different, dangerous. Then came the sound of movement, something large, something fast. A second alien figure emerged from the shadows, its exoskeleton gleaming with an unnatural sheen. Unlike Virex, this one carried no stabilizer, no sign of human influence. His posture was rigid, its 6 eyes locked onto Elias with a predatory intensity. You, the alien growled, his voice a deep, guttural rasp. You are the one who dares to teach Virex the ways of the weak. Elias's pulse quickened. I'm not teaching him weakness. I'm teaching him how to adapt. The alien bared his mandibles in something that could have been a sneer. Adaptation is not strength. The Varkari do not tolerate those who stray from our ways. Virex stepped forward, positioning himself between Elias and the newcomer. This human has shown me value and knowledge beyond combat, he said, his voice calm but firm. The other alien's exoskeletal plates shifted, his posture growing more aggressive. You have been infected by their methods. You forget who you are. Elias clenched his jaw. He had seen the way the Varkari operate, strict, hierarchical, and unforgiving. If this alien was here to challenge Virex's newfound alliance with him, it could mean more than just an argument. It could mean a fight. And then the station shuddered again, more violently this time. A distant explosion echoed through the tunnels, followed by the sharp hiss of decompression alarms. Elias's tablet flickered with emergency notifications. Multiple sectors were losing power, and one of the station's primary stabilizers was failing. If they didn't act quickly, Nexus Prime could suffer catastrophic structural damage. Virex turned to Elias, his voice urgent. The station is failing. Elias's mind raced. He had worked on human-designed stabilizers before, but the Varkari systems were an entirely different beast. He needed Virex's help, but if the other alien was here to stop that, they had no time to waste. You want to prove that strength is only through battle? Elias said, stepping forward. Fine. Let's see if brute force can stop this station from collapsing. The alien's eyes narrowed. You speak nonsense. Elias met his gaze without flinching. Then let's find out if your strength is enough to fix what's breaking. The challenge was set. The station was failing. And the only way to stop it was to prove that human ingenuity was just as vital as alien power. Elias's mind raced as he scanned his tablet's emergency diagnostics. The station's primary stabilizer, a relic of Varkari engineering, was failing. Its intricate lattice of alien conduits was overloaded, and the energy flow was dangerously erratic. Without immediate intervention, the stabilizer would rupture, sending shockwaves through Nexus Prime structure. The aliens' rigid, combat-focused mindset wouldn't solve this. What they needed wasn't brute force, it was precision, and that was where Elias came in. He turned to Virex, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to access the stabilizer's core, but the Varkari systems are too complex for me to navigate alone. You've lived here longer, you know their tech better than anyone." Virex's 6 eyes flickered with understanding, his posture shifting from defensive to focused. "The stabilizer was designed to be accessed only by Varkari engineers," he said. "Its security protocols are unyielding." Elias grinned, already pulling a compact toolkit from his belt. "Then we'll need to improvise. You said your people value precision, right? Let's show them what human precision can do." The alien who had confronted them stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the corridor. "You cannot repair what you do not understand," he sneered. "Your meddling weakens the Varkari's legacy." Elias met his gaze without hesitation. "Legacy means nothing if the station collapses around us. You can stand there and argue about tradition, or you can help us stop this from happening." The alien's eyes darkened to a deep, threatening violet. For a moment, it seemed he might strike. But then, the station groaned again, a deep, shuddering noise that sent vibrations through the floor. The stabilizer's energy levels spiked, and alarms blared through the corridors. Whatever his reservations, the alien knew the station's survival was at stake. "Fine," he growled. "But if you fail, the Varkari will not forget your weakness." Elias didn't respond. He was already moving, Virex at his side. They sprinted through the tunnels, dodging falling debris as the station's structure trembled. The stabilizer chamber was located in a restricted section deep beneath the maintenance tunnels, accessible only through a series of reinforced Varkari doors that required a biometric scan to open. Elias had studied the system before, but the alien security protocols were nearly impenetrable. As they reached the first door, Virex extended his hand, pressing it against the scanner. The mechanism whirred, then rejected his input. Elias cursed under his breath. "They've locked it down. No Varkari access allowed." Virex's eyes narrowed. "Then we break through." Elias shook his head. "That'll take too long. We need another way." He crouched, pulling out a small device from his toolkit, a portable energy modulator he had modified for emergency repairs. He adjusted its frequency, aligning it with the Varkari system's energy signature. "If I can trick the door into thinking we're authorized, we can get in without tearing it apart." Virex studied him. "You would manipulate the system rather than force it." Elias smirked. "That's the human way. We don't just rely on strength. We find ways around obstacles." The alien's eyes flickered with something close to respect as Elias activated the modulator. The door hesitated, then slowly slid open. They moved through, each step bringing them closer to the failing stabilizer. Inside the chamber, the stabilizer's core pulsed erratically, its energy flow disrupted by the overload. Elias's tablet displayed the system's intricate schematics, but the alien design was unlike anything human engineers had encountered before. He turned to Virex. "What's the standard repair protocol?" Virex studied the core for a moment. "It must be recalibrated manually. The Varkari use a sequence of precise movements to reset the energy flow." Elias frowned. "And how do we do that?" Virex stepped forward, his massive limbs moving with surprising grace. He extended one arm, his exoskeletal fingers tracing a pattern in the air, activating a series of controls embedded in the stabilizer's surface. But the energy surge was too much. The stabilizer pulsed violently, sending Virex stumbling back. Elias rushed in before the alien could recover. He didn't have time for traditional Varkari methods. He grabbed a set of cables from his toolkit, linking them to the stabilizer's exposed conduits. We're going to have to stabilize the energy flow manually. If we can redirect the excess power through these conduits, we can prevent a full rupture. Virex's eyes widened slightly. You would use human tools to fix a Varkari system. Elias nodded. Your people built this, but I understand energy systems. Let's combine our strengths. The alien who had followed them hesitated. You would risk the Varkari's legacy for human methods? Elias shot him a sharp glance. Your legacy means nothing if the station implodes. Without waiting for further argument, Elias activated his modulator, fine-tuning the energy flow while Virex followed his instructions, adjusting the stabilizer's core. Together, they worked in tandem, Virex's precision guiding the alien technology, Elias's ingenuity adapting it to human repair techniques. Then, just as they neared the final calibration, the stabilizer surged again. This time, it wasn't just a fluctuation, it was a full-scale overload. The chamber's walls groaned as the energy built up, threatening to tear the system apart. Elias's mind worked furiously. He had seen this before, in human-built generators. When energy flow became too unstable, the only solution was to reroute it before it reached critical mass. He turned to Virex. We need to redirect the excess energy elsewhere. There must be a secondary conduit. Virex scanned the chamber, then nodded. There is one, but it requires manual activation. Elias didn't hesitate. Then activate it. Virex moved quickly, his massive frame navigating the chamber with practiced ease. He pressed a sequence of controls, triggering a hidden conduit that Elias hadn't even noticed. The stabilizer's energy flow shifted, redirecting the overload into the secondary system. The chamber trembled one last time, then the stabilizer's glow steadied, its pulse returning to normal. The alien who had opposed them stepped forward, his 6 eyes locked on Elias. You altered the Varkari's design. Elias exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. I didn't alter it. I adapted it. Your systems work, but they weren't built for human hands. We had to find a way to make them compatible. Virex studied Elias, then turned to the other alien. He did not weaken our systems. He made them stronger. The alien hesitated, his exoskeletal plates shifting as if in deep thought. Finally, he let out a low, rumbling sound, something between a growl and a reluctant acknowledgement. Perhaps there is value in your methods after all. Elias allowed himself a small, exhausted smile. Glad you could see it that way. The station had been saved. Not by strength alone, not by tradition alone, but by a fusion of human ingenuity and alien precision. As the alarms quieted and the power grid stabilized, Elias knew that something had changed. The Varkari were not just warriors. They were engineers, builders. And for the first time, they were beginning to see that humans were not just fragile, not just weak, they were problem solvers. And that realization would change everything. In the weeks following the stabilizer crisis, Nexus Prime began to shift in ways no one had anticipated. What had started as a tense alliance between Elias and Virex had now become a movement, a new philosophy that challenged the rigid structures of the Varkari and the cautious skepticism of the human workers. The station's leadership, both human and Varkari, had no choice but to acknowledge the success of the repairs. Systems that had once been deemed incompatible now functioned in perfect synchrony, thanks to the combined efforts of human ingenuity and Varkari engineering. Elias found himself in an unfamiliar position, no longer just a maintenance officer, but a bridge between two worlds. The Varkari leadership, once reluctant to allow human engineers access to their systems, now invited him to study their technology more closely. Virex, too, had become a figure of quiet revolution. He had been one of the most traditional among his kind, but now he was at the forefront of change, advocating for the integration of human methods into Varkari repair protocols. Their collaboration extended beyond the lower tunnels. Elias and Virex were assigned to lead a joint engineering team, composed of both human and Varkari technicians. At first, the arrangement was met with resistance. Many Varkari still viewed human methods as inferior, while some human engineers hesitated to work alongside beings that had once been their adversaries. But as Elias and Virex demonstrated how their techniques complemented each other, the skepticism began to fade. The human engineers learned to appreciate the Varkari's meticulous approach to problem-solving, their ability to analyze complex systems with a level of precision that no human could match. In return, the Varkari discovered the value of adaptability, the human ability to think outside the constraints of rigid design, to use whatever tools were available to get the job done. Elias showed them how to repurpose human equipment for Varkari systems, while Virex taught human engineers how to navigate the alien schematics, helping them understand the logic behind the Varkari's intricate energy networks. The changes rippled outward. The station's maintenance protocols were updated to include hybrid techniques, blending Varkari precision with human improvisation. Repair teams that once avoided the alien sectors now moved freely between them, collaborating on tasks that would have been impossible before. Even the station's security forces, once wary of Varkari presence, began to see the value in their partnership. Then came the biggest test yet. A distress signal arrived from another station, Orion Nexus, a human-Varkari joint outpost on the edge of the galaxy. A critical system failure had left the station's gravity field unstable, threatening to tear the entire structure apart. The Varkari leadership hesitated to send help, unwilling to risk their warriors in what they saw as a human engineering failure. But Elias and Virex had already seen this kind of problem before. "We can fix this," Elias insisted. "But we need to act now." Virex stepped forward, his 6 eyes locked on the Varkari commander. "We will go together. The humans have proven their worth. It is time we prove ours in return." The commander hesitated, then gave a slow, reluctant nod. "If you fail, the Varkari will not intervene again." Elias grinned. "Then we'd better not fail." The journey to Orion Nexus was tense. The human crew aboard the transport vessel watched warily as Virex and his warriors moved through the ship with their usual silent efficiency. But Elias was confident. He had seen the power of their combined efforts, and he knew this wasn't just about fixing a broken system anymore. It was about proving that their two species could work together, not just survive, but thrive. When they arrived, the situation was dire. The gravity field had destabilized, causing unpredictable shifts in weight distribution. Entire sections of the station were at risk of structural collapse. Elias and Virex wasted no time. They led the team into the station's core, where the gravity generator's control system was housed. The Varkari engineers hesitated at first, unwilling to touch the human-built machinery. But Elias quickly demonstrated how their stabilizer technology could be adapted to work alongside the generator's failing circuits. For hours, the team worked in tandem. The Varkari warriors, once known only for their combat prowess, now handled delicate calibration tools with surprising care. Elias moved between them, offering guidance, showing them how to adjust the generator's output using human repair techniques. It was a dance of precision and adaptability, of tradition and innovation. Then, just as they reached the final stage of the repair, the generator sputtered again. A final surge of energy threatened to tear it apart. Elias had seconds to act. He turned to Virex. "We need to manually redirect the flow. Can you handle the Varkari interface?" Virex nodded. "I understand its logic now." Elias activated a bypass circuit he had designed on the spot, rerouting the excess energy into a temporary buffer. Virex manipulated the alien controls with practiced ease, stabilizing the final sequence. The generator pulsed once, then steadied. The gravity field returned to normal. The station was saved, and as the human and Varkari engineers looked around at each other, they saw something they hadn't before: respect. Elias turned to Virex, grinning. "You know what this means?" Virex's eyes flickered with something close to amusement. That humans are not as weak as we once believed. Elias shook his head. That we're just getting started. As the days turned into weeks, the collaboration between humans and Varkari grew stronger, evolving from reluctant tolerance to genuine partnership. The engineers aboard Nexus Prime no longer viewed the Varkari as mere relics of an outdated alien past, but as allies with unique strengths that could complement human ingenuity. The once rigid boundaries between species blurred, giving way to a shared purpose, maintaining the station, ensuring its survival, and proving that cooperation could be more powerful than division. Elias and Virex became the face of this new alliance. Their joint engineering team, initially met with skepticism, now operated as the most efficient repair unit on the station. They had developed a hybrid system, combining Varkari precision with human adaptability, allowing for faster, more effective maintenance across the entire outpost. The Varkari, once resistant to change, began adopting human techniques in their own repair protocols, integrating human tools into their own systems. In return, human engineers learned to read the intricate energy flows of Varkari machinery, unlocking new ways to stabilize and optimize the station's power grid. The ripple effects of their work extended beyond Nexus Prime. Word of the successful repairs at Orion Nexus spread across the galactic network, drawing attention from other human and alien outposts. Stations that had previously avoided human-Varkari cooperation now requested joint engineering teams, eager to apply the same techniques that had saved Orion Nexus from collapse. The Galactic Council, initially hesitant to endorse such cross-species collaboration, found itself facing a new reality. Human engineers and Varkari warriors were not just coexisting, they were reshaping the very foundation of interstellar maintenance. Elias, once just a lone maintenance officer working in the shadows of the station, now found himself at the center of something much larger. He was no longer just fixing circuits and power relays. He was training a new generation of engineers, both human and Varkari, to see beyond the limits of their own species. Virex, too, had changed. No longer bound by the rigid traditions of his kind, he had become a symbol of progress, a warrior who had embraced knowledge as a form of strength. Their work had proven something neither species had fully understood before. That strength was not just about power or combat, but about the ability to adapt, to learn, and to see the value in the unknown. And as Nexus Prime stood as a beacon of this newfound cooperation, Elias knew that their journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and the lessons they had learned together were only the beginning of something greater. As Elias and Virex stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime, the stars stretched out before them, vast and unchanging. Below, the station bustled with a new kind of energy, one that wasn't defined by fear or division, but by collaboration. Human engineers and Varkari warriors moved side by side through the corridors, their once separate worlds now intertwined. It was a sight Elias never would have imagined just months ago, and yet here it was, real and growing. Virex's eyes flickered with a deep, steady violet, a sign of contemplation. "I've seen many things in my time," he rumbled, "but never has a Varkari worked so closely with a human." Elias grinned, his gaze shifting to his friend. "Maybe that's because no one ever tried before." Virex's exoskeletal plates shifted slightly, a gesture Elias had come to recognize as something akin to amusement. "Perhaps." He turned his head toward Elias, his gaze more intense now. "You have changed the way I see strength." Elias chuckled. "You've changed the way I see machines." A low, resonant hum vibrated through Virex's chest. It wasn't quite a laugh, but it was close enough. "You are not weak, Elias Raines." Elias smirked. "And you're not just muscle." Their partnership had proven something far greater than either of them had intended. It wasn't just about fixing a failing stabilizer or adapting alien technology to human hands. It was about breaking barriers, about showing that understanding could be stronger than instinct, that knowledge could be as powerful as brute force. And now, as Nexus Prime stood as a model for cooperation, their story was no longer just theirs. It was the beginning of something that would spread across the stars. Virex extended a massive arm, placing one of his exoskeletal fingers gently on Elias's shoulder. It was a gesture of respect, one that had once seemed impossible between their species. "We have built something unexpected," he said, "and it will endure." Elias nodded, the weight of the moment settling in. "Yeah, I think it will." Together, they had shown that strength came in many forms. And in doing so, they had changed the course of interstellar history.